1988, and I concluded after my third bank robbery that I needed a Getaway song to blast on my CD player while I cruised away with the loot. I reviewed the canon of great music from Beethoven's Eroica to echoing the Bunnymen's The Killing Moon, and for some ridiculous reason I landed on Smooth Criminal by Michael Jackson. There I was, driving on Highway 5 from San Diego to Los Angeles, a minute from the bank, a clean getaway, thousands of dollars in my fanny pack that I have on the back seat, and I was feeling ferocious. So I pulled out the bad CD case, and I slid the CD into the player. Then the song began. Quick violent horns and a loud drum, they startle you, followed by the sound of a heartbeat picking up speed. And I'm like, okay, I could feel how this music would work. I got what just went down. The burst of horns meant a crime had just occurred, followed by somebody panicking. There's a rush of adrenaline, like me at the bank counter threatening to tell her that if she didn't give me all the money, I'd blow her brains out. So she stiffens and her heartbeat quickens. What next? A pause. Then a strong bass track kicks in, good, real strong. Just like I felt in that driver's seat, sturdy and vital. The song was working. Then Michael opened his mouth. As he came into the window, it was the sound of a crescendo. He came into her apartment. He left the bloodstains on the carpet. She ran underneath the table. He could see she was unable. So she ran to the bedroom. She was struck down. It was her doom. Annie, are you okay? Annie, are you okay? I'm like, what the fuck? This song's about a rape or a murder? I ejected the CD instantly. I'm like, listen, I'm no stranger to terror and violence. I once made a teller piss herself as she faced the wall in the bank vault. So I get that I wasn't in a position to pass moral judgment on other types of criminals. Believe me, I get that. But I wasn't about to listen to the ballad of Annie's rapist during my pristine getaway. So I drove the rest of the way home annoyed, feeling cheated for not being able to celebrate my achievement with a triumphant song. I wanted music that made me feel mighty, indomitable, heroic, and historic. Maybe some Wagner. And I don't mean Wedding March Wagner or Tristan and Isolde Wagner. I mean Ride of the Valkyries Wagner, which I happen to have at home. The only problem with Ride of the Valkyries was that I mostly associated with the beach scene in Apocalypse Now, where Robert Duvall famously quips that he loves the smell of napalm in the morning. I don't mind playing a song that would have conjured up a movie scene, but after the Smooth Criminal debacle on either side, any song choice would have to echo my mental state in that car. And while you can't find more triumphant music than Wagner's Ride of the Valkyries, I mean, that's a fucking kick-ass song, the mood of that song would forever be tied to the Vietnam War. And for me anyway, it was an ill-conceived police action, basically a defeat in the end. So once I'm home, I start plucking the CDs that showed promise. First was the Allman Brothers' Greatest Hits collection. From there, Southern rock made a strong initial showing, probably because I dug the hint of violence in the band's names. There's like Molly Hatchet, 38 Special, there's the Outlaws. You know, I just love all that banditry stuff. But then next was Canadian rock. I picked Neil Young's Live Rush CD because I love the grinding electric guitar sound in Like a Hurricane. The deep dissonant chords toward the end of the song, they really charge me, really make me feel like they make sense to me on some elemental level. And then there's Bachman Turner Overdrive, also got the nod, Let It Ride, one of my all-time favorites. It's a hard charge, drum-driven song, a real shit kick with tight harmonies and a clean acoustic guitar sound throughout. Early on, I quietly favored Don't Fear the Reaper by Blue Oyster Cult, mostly because I love the line, Caesars don't fear the Reaper. Now, stay with me on this one. I used to tell people that I was Nietzsche's Übermensch, the Superman, alive to stomp over normal categories of proper behavior. I existed to prove that timid moralities were a thing that were meant to be surpassed. So I had a kinship with every manner of authoritarian. Czars, Führers, pharaohs, popes, kings, they all believed themselves supreme like me. So the notion that Caesar, like me, did not fear the Reaper, that appealed to my gargantuan vanity. The problem, though, was when I listened carefully to the song, I discovered that it was Seasons, not Caesars, that didn't fear the Reaper. And on top of that, the song is actually a love song with way too many Baby Take My Hand verses to qualify as dangerous or darkly textured getaway music, so I just let that go. Then I gotta go to British rock, and there's Led Zeppelin, right? It got me all excited. Communication Breakdown for one. It felt like a great fit, right? I mean, metaphorically, my bank robberies were already evidence that sometime earlier in my life, my ability to communicate normally had broken down. Led Zeppelin hard rock songs are primal music. They're wonderfully able to prepare you for any kind of action. You want to confront your cheating husband? but you're worried about what the cost of your marriage might be? Listen to Black Dog first. You want to march into your boss's office, call him or her a prick? Listen to Rock and Roll. Have you been foreclosed on and want to rob the neighborhood Bank of America? Listen to Immigrant Song. But slowly it occurred to me, I was doing that thing where I was pump you up for a good day of bank robbery music. It wasn't enjoy your comfortable ride home and bask in your glory music, after a heist music. What I really needed was to match the music that matched my post-robbery mood. So I go to the refrigerator, I pull out a Corona, I pop in Pink Floyd's The Wall, disc 2, and I sit down on my big, comfy leather chair and I close my eyes and I tell myself, think about the way you felt driving home from a bank robbery, which inevitably led me to begin to take stock in the mood I was in reclined in that chair. One thing was clear. I felt positively post-coital, like I just shot my wad and I was lying in bed naked, half drugged by a fierce, lusty conquest that had proven to be terribly right. I felt mellow, otherworldly, slightly buzzed, like I had a minor concussion. Not like the drive to the bank robbery where my body always fought off an anxiety attack. My hands would get real sweaty, my stomach would cramp, my head would feel like it was trapped in a tightening vice. Intense fatigue would sweep over me. If I pulled over to the side of the road, I could have slept for 3 hours, no bullshit. My body was that panicked. And it was doing everything it could do to try and shut down before I got to my destination. In order to combat the mutiny, I would summon memories of my boyhood humiliation. Like the time these 3 boys, they beat me up and they break my glasses in 8th grade. My preacher father, his response was that he drove me around East LA neighborhood, looking for these guys so that he could have me fight them one-on-one. And he tells me if I don't win, then I'm gonna get beat at home. My reverie right there in that chair would soon lead me to the time when I was 16 and I stabbed him in the neck with a steak knife after he'd given me a vicious beating. Then in that car when I'm going to rob the bank, under tremendous physical duress and incredible rage would jolt me and it would instantly subdue my body. It was as if I shot 20 grams of endorphins. I would be overwhelmed by an amazing sense of mission. Outwardly, I was stoic, no more jitters, but my brain would be throbbing with mad purpose. Like if I was listening to Ozzy Osbourne, it would have suited me in that moment. It would have suited me in that moment to listen to Ozzy Osbourne. The screams, the echoes, the antic sounds, the crazy train, along with the lyrics, I'm going off the rails on a crazy train. All that suggested a silent bedlam. That's what it felt like driving to a robbery, like getting ready to stab my dad. But returning home felt more like the sensation I had 2 hours after I'd done it. My brother and I had run out of the apartment to my aunt's house. Well, we raced through the door, and I told her that I had killed my dad. He survived, but I didn't know it at the time. My aunt drove us to the police station. During the interview, a cop noticed that I was calmly telling the story. He suggested they might charge me with premeditated attempted murder. Even I knew enough to know that I'm acting rather cool for having supposedly just killed my dad. After a few hours, I start to complain to a female cop that my arm hurt and my ribs hurt. So she drives me to this local hospital, and it's revealed that I have fractured bones. The doctor also concludes I have a major concussion. So all the charging me with attempted murders is done, and I was taken to a facility named McLaren Hall, where all kids are placed. They wait to be placed in foster care. So I lay on that county cot, and I wore my wounds as a badge of honor, like you should see the other guy kind of cockiness. Later in prison, I reread the Red Badge of Courage, and I remember that there's this part in there where Henry, he suffered a head trauma. He gets beat up in battle, and he talks about how he conceived his torn body to be peculiarly happy. And that's how I felt in my concussive state, right there in that bed. I felt like bloody combat with my father. After that, I felt peculiarly happy. The violence of my childhood was like one fuzzy dream state. I can now say that the entire crime spree of my early life, it could be understood as me basically replicating the mood of the home I was raised in, full of terror, episodic violence, extreme disassociation from the normal frequencies of human emotion. In fact, the dominant motif of Comfortably Numb that I'm listening to in that leather chair, it resonated with my life's motif of hazard and contingency. It was as if the Baroque confusion of my childhood's concussion, all that shit in my head, had been given voice in David Gilmour's plaintive guitar licks and in his like moody blues-like orchestral strings, and finally in the brooding anguish psychedelic lyrics. When I was a child, I had a fever. My hands felt just like 2 balloons. Now I've got that feeling once again. I can't explain, you would not understand. When I was a child, I caught a fleeting glimpse out of the corner of my eye. I turned to look, but it was gone. I cannot put my finger on it now. The child is grown. The dream is gone. I have become comfortably numb. The song ended, and I opened my eyes. And I knew that that song, Comfortably Numb, would be what I would be hearing after every future bank robbing, which ended up being approximately 25 more.